Hey guys, welcome back to the Evening of Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian, and today we are going to be talking about leadership in various forms. So I hope you guys enjoy this. For me, I was thinking about the first time that I was asked to be a leader and what it looked like. And I think it was just from playing sports. And so when you're first like told something like that, you don't really know what it looks like because they tell you to be a leader, but nobody's showing you how to do it.
Yeah.
And so all you do is just like, well, if I'm gonna do this, then you need to do it, right? Like if I'm gonna do my 10 reps, then you need to be able to do 10. And it comes down to communication. Some people just not good at communicating, or they've never been taught to communicate. And I'll be honest, I was not a good leader in sports because I didn't care. I didn't care to be good. I just cared about me doing what I needed to do and, playing with my friends. I didn't care to make sure everybody else, because we had other people on the team that was vocal. But you fast forward and I get to college, and it's a different type of responsibility happens because I'm not around the childhood friends anymore. I'm not around my family. I'm pretty much forced into adulthood, and I'm forced to interact with people that I don't know. And then I start becoming part of organizations like a fraternity.
Yeah.
And that in itself was a humbling thing for me to do, for ego wise, coming from where I come from. And then having to lead people, it was weird. But at that point, you get examples of what leadership looked like in that context, right? And you don't, once again, you don't really know what leadership looks like if you're not raised up in it. If you don't have it around. I know you mentioned about your dad, and we both have a similar thing, whereas I didn't have an example of how a man would lead in certain contexts. For me, I didn't know how to organize financially or to prepare myself financially. I didn't know how to lead a woman. I didn't know how to prepare myself for meetings or trying to get a job. I didn't know how to organize myself to pay bills, And all that stuff takes somebody helping you and showing you how to do it and be responsible. And it wasn't until, I gave my life to Christ and I started to get into the word and understand the text that the revelation of God's word and what he has leadership look like for men, he established it in the beginning. So I think it's good when we're at a place of wisdom, it's good to look at what God has said and what he has done, look at those examples and then apply them today. And for us, and I know you know this well, but we just look at Adam, in the beginning and the things that God assigned him to do. He was responsible for naming things. Whatever he said was so. And, taking care of the garden, taking care of everything, making sure Eve knew the stipulations of everything, Now, that doesn't stop us from rebelling, as we can see with Adam. But go ahead.
Did he tell Eve?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
And that's been a cultural narrative that's been missing, because it's a popular thing to say if Eve would have known. But the more you look at the text, how she know to tell the serpent that we're not supposed to eat that?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
One thing that you said that's interesting. A lot of times we say, "Oh, lead by example," and leading by example without communication doesn't mean anything.
That's good.
And that's when I'm learning. And like you said, like you were the example. Like, look, I'm doing this without communicating and letting them know.
Yeah.
Like, how are they supposed to know exactly what and why? Because some people they need to know the reason behind it.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting, like, if she is just following his example too, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously she knew there was some sort of a context of it, but and obviously the word says that, but I just think that it's just interesting
if
to
we
think
talking
about
plain
how
about
important
it, I like
the communication is.
No, for sure.
As a leader,
It is, because maybe him not doing it, he thought that would be enough. Adam, why can't we go eat from there? Oh, God said we can't.
Yeah.
No, okay then. Well,
Mm-hmm.
It could have been something as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But I think we in the text don't really give that type of broadness to the
Yeah.
text, right? But that's something that we can assume based off our characteristics, how we act.
And I think that's something we can also learn and grow from too, because how, as husbands, how important or how effective are we in communicating things and the importance of it to
Mm,
our spouse?
yeah.
And I feel like that's one thing, like we've been going through counseling, that I realized because there's like a lapse in our communication.
Mm,
She doesn't understand the gravity of certain things, and because of my temperament, I minimize everything. Like everything is super
mm,
nonchalant to where I'll make it like, oh, that's no big deal. And Diana, when she sees that, she thinks that that means that she doesn't even have a role to play, you know. And I feel like sometimes, like when it comes to communication as a leader, it is important to understand who you are leading and how to be effective in your communication with them so that they can understand where you're headed and
mm.
see your vision and really fall into it, you know?
I think in this context too, since we talking about us being married, you got to know why you're leading the way you're leading. Like
Absolutely.
if I don't understand why I'm leading this way, then there's no way I
Hmm.
can communicate to my wife
Yes,
on where
yes,
we're
bro.
going. So
Yeah.
now I need to take a step back. Why am I even doing this in the first place? Where did I learn this from?
Hmm.
And then you look back like, well, I learned wrong. So if I learn wrong, then I have to establish something new. And therefore, for me to establish something new, I need to communicate that with my wife for us to establish something
Yes,
new. And that's how you both can move forward. And
exactly.
until that conversation happens, you're going to continue having friction, you know what I'm saying, in the house,
Hmm.
because now you're trying to base what you've seen or what you think you know about leading a woman, leading a
Hmm.
wife of whatever
Yeah.
happened. And it's not working because she's a different personality.
Hmm.
She's a different person, but from the woman that you saw be led by a man that's not a good leader.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So therefore
Absolutely.
you gotta, and that's the one thing that happens in marriage a lot. You come in ready to take the mantle of leader, leading my family. You want to take this mantle, but you expect this person to unpack your baggage.
Mm.
That's not how it's gonna work. Like she can't unpack your baggage and you can't unpack hers. At some point, doing counseling like you're doing is healthy. Therefore, y'all both gotta take it serious to unpack your own crap
Hmm.
and buy new luggage together. you know.
Yeah.
And that's how I would encourage that if I'm, mentoring or preaching to somebody through that aspect. For me, I like to learn. I like to learn from my mistakes, and counseling was probably the best thing me and my wife could do because we learn each other. And I learned that I don't know what I don't know, but I know I need something new because what we're doing isn't working, you know. And that's been learning how to communicate in the midst of frustration is the goal
Mm.
because a lot of people allow if there's miscommunication that leads to frustration, then people shut down. But if I learn how to communicate while being frustrated, I can come back around and fix whatever started the problem. Vice versa, knowing that Erica needs more time. Me, I can process within the fight, whereas Erica needs a day or two to get her thoughts together. And that's something that I had to learn to respect. I still mess up at times off like small things, but for the most part, we really have learned how to navigate, especially in this season right now. Like it's been challenging. It's good things because we have a good problem. I have a job now, but it's a different dynamic with me being gone and coming home. So it's just really communicating what is it that you need from me when I step over the threshold. Like, what do you need? So I know how I need to respond.
Do you feel like um, progressing as a leader in your home has helped you being a leader in church? Or are they two totally different things?
Oh man, progressing as a leader in my home. I think it has it's definitely good training ground,
Mm-hmm.
if I can admit that. Definitely practicing putting things into practice in your home is definitely good training ground for the battlefield, out there. Um I can say it has helped me to be um patient, to I'm not as reactive out there as I am at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mainly because what happens when you react to a person that you care about, that you love deeply, your wife, is because you've subconsciously put them on a pedestal. And so when they're not living up to the
Yeah.
expectations that we made that
Hmm.
they aren't aware of,
Yeah.
then that's where the frustration and explosions can happen. It's not her fault that I have her on a pedestal. She has
Yeah.
no idea, that I expect certain things, or I expect her to respond this way, or I expect her to be this way.
Yeah.
I haven't communicated that. And so being able to come into church, being a leader at church, I think that's been different because I 1,000% rely on the spirit. I have to eliminate myself immediately when I'm dealing with, especially when I'm coming to the house of the Lord, or if I'm dealing with people of God, and even people that there aren't believers. Like I recognize that it's an opportunity that God has given me to to reflect Him. So I have to die to myself and say, Holy Spirit, give me exactly what I need to speak to this person, and let me eliminate whatever crap that I'm currently dealing with to be available for you, to help you and to help this person and help them to see you in me. At church has been more so, I more so pay attention to leaders, the quality of bad leaders, and I make sure I don't do certain things. Like if I see a characteristic out of somebody that's very dry, or very standoffish, or one letter, they don't have the light. They're very like boom, 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 and all the place. Like I watch things like that where it's like, okay, I'll make sure I don't be like that. For anybody that I have to lead or that's leading under me, I want to make sure that I'm available. Be it in person, be it in my home, be it, walking to my car or in the foyer. I try to make sure I'm sensitive to the moment that the door that God is opening for me to pour into this person. So um, leadership, and I love my pastor. Watching my pastor, Pastor Ken, uh, it's been good to observe him for like the past several years. So I think that's key. Watching the right leadership, because I think a lot of people in church have titles that they shouldn't have. So when you look at the top, so I'm always looking at the top. And my pastor could never offend me because I don't have him on a pedestal,
Yeah.
but I respect him as the shepherd, because that's what pastor mean.
Hmm.
And so I'm always watching him and seeing how he navigates, how he's dealing with the flock, how he's speaking to people, how he's always available, how he's just there. But I also see him as a human. I don't separate the two. I don't make him, because he's my pastor, that he has no flaws. No, I know he does. That's why I can't see him other than that. The only person that I can idolize is Christ. He ain't Christ, and I
Hmm.
think that's where church hurt comes from, because they put pastors on this pedestal and think that they can do no wrong. And it's like, no, he's human too. He has flaws, but I don't care about that. I like that. I
Hmm.
like that he's a man, but I also respect him as my pastor. Uh, but it's things when because I've been there a while, I've seen people come and go, but you see different qualities out of people that you just like, let me make sure I don't be that way.
Yeah.
So
I think another thing, back to the church hurt thing real quick. One thing that I've observed is a lot of people put themselves on pedestals, and if you're
that's
new
good.
to the faith, they almost like can coerce you into putting them onto this pedestal. And then when you do,
Manipulation?
yeah, through manipulation,
Mhm.
through just coercion, manipulation,
Yeah.
and then you put them on this pedestal because they asked to be there, and then they aren't able to carry the weight because no one can,
Right.
and then
Right.
that's when you start to hurt and damage everyone around you.
Hmm.
But it's like a twofold thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
I
like
can.
like you said, that's a part of leadership that you should not want, which is to desire to be that.
Yeah. It's desiring the title,
Yeah.
and because you probably don't even. I would say this because it's something that I'm trying to avoid. I think people wear their title more than they wear the responsibility of the title. So if you're a pastor, if you have pastor anything, then you're a shepherd. But you rather be the pastor, but don't want to do the shepherding. You get what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
shepherding means that you got to be in it. You got to be available. You got to
Yeah.
be, around and open and ready to have
Yeah.
tough conversations with your people. And I think that's something that I'm trying my best to be mindful of.
Yeah.
And I really don't want a title. Like
Yeah.
I'm getting to the point where I know God is probably calling me for something higher, but if I'm being transparent, I'm scared. I'm scared of having the title of pastor or anything, like
Yeah.
I just don't want that because I
Mhm.
know the responsibility that comes with that, and yeah, and I think it's that. I think that if a lot of people, even the folks that you see online, like people love the title of evangelist. We're talking about the fivefold ministry,
Mhm.
pastor, evangelist, teacher,
Possible.
apostle, they like to have the title, but don't want the responsibility that comes with it and the accountability that comes with that title too.
Yeah.
But they like to operate in it because people they like the embrace,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you know one thing too is obviously there's a million churches out here.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I can see that there are a lot of people with these titles who were shepherded by people with the title,
Mhm.
and they weren't really cultivated in the right direction. You know,
No, for sure.
it's like a pastor may see you, oh, I see you as this, so
Mhm.
be this, or or at the same time, it's some of the people who you are shepherding, they're desiring to be what you have because it's
Yeah.
some desire that they've always wanted, some
Yeah.
insecurity that they've always wanted,
Oh,
some
that's good.
some sense of
Yeah.
leadership that they've always felt that they wanted because they were pushed off, they were like neglected. And what happens is that insecurity doesn't get fed as they're promoted, Like God doesn't heal the insecurity, they're just promoted and they continue to have that small seed. So even though they think it's gone, it's never completely uprooted. So when they do become a pastor, it's feeding
Yeah.
that same
Yeah.
ego that they always wanted to get stroked.
Yeah, no, and then the cool thing for me is that, man, I've been at the same church. This is my first church that I've, come to, my family come to, right? We've been there several years and I've seen a lot of different people come and go, and you see the immaturity that comes out after certain people
Yeah.
like leave, and I'm just like, wow, like I thought you were
Yeah, it's weird.
like, you know what I mean? Like, but some people you see a growth happen, where like
Yeah.
they needed to leave and God has
Yeah.
propelled them, right?
Yeah.
So it's been interesting for me to kind of glean from.
Yeah.
Like, and this one guy I never forget, Patrick Garrity was like my first mentor. He passed away a couple years ago from cancer. But man, that I'll never forget him. He's always a part of my testimony because the way he led me, like he never gave me the answer. He forced me to get in the text.
Mhm.
He forced me to get in the word. And I'm like, dude, I just want to know, can you just tell me?
Yeah.
He's like, no, like just go read this and you tell me what you find from it. And
Yeah.
that's the best advice he could have ever given me. But that was consistent with what my pastor says from the pulpit.
Yeah.
Like don't just listen to me. You go get in your word. And a lot of people don't do that.
Mhm.
So when they and that's how offense can creep in because people just give me how do I get from here to there?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you're not called from here to there. Maybe God just called you there
Mhm.
and you need to learn how to operate there. And I think that's the avoidance is people think that they want certain titles, but they don't understand, yo, like that. It's heavy, yo.
Yeah.
It's heavy. You better be careful what you ask God for.
Mhm.
And especially serving in ministry, you
Yeah.
know. You've known for years, the different things you've done at church.
Yeah.
Even when you did the prison ministry, I just want to know like how's that Luke serving in ministry through that aspect versus now because
Yeah.
I know I've known you now. You have a light. I
Mhm.
don't know what it was like back then
Yeah.
versus now.
The biggest thing I would say, being a chaplain in prison, is your church is all sinners who you can't necessarily disciple. That you can't disciple everybody the same way, and can't you also can't indoctrinate the same way either. They have to come, they have to accept, but you can't like right now, like if somebody comes to you, hey Adrian, what do you think about this sin or this sin or this sin?
Mm.
You can break down the Bible, and you can have that expectation of like, if you're a part of this faith, that's what it is. Being a chaplain in jail was kind of like a little bit restrictive, because I'd have to give somebody like a Quran. I'd have to go and do research
Oh,
on
I
like,
see. I
yeah,
see.
like there's this one guy when I first started, I
Dang,
had to
it's
do
a melting
research.
pot.
Yeah, and I can't. My job at that point, like being the head of everything, I had to put the preachers in place who were going to actually go and teach at night. I had to put the classes in place
Got
for
you.
the people who were
Got
going to
you.
go to the classes. If somebody wanted to be a devil worshiper, I had to go do the research, make sure
Dang.
make sure what I'm giving them isn't going to be something that helps them to create a riot, spreads hate, all that type of stuff. So there's like a
Ah,
lot of legal things that I have to do in my research.
them folks
But then
had
on
you
the other
handcuffed.
hand, I had to go hear somebody's story, and I had to pray for them at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not in church. You can be under this veil of just Christianity, everything. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and then I'm going to leave the church, and I'm going to intentionally go and give to the poor who are homeless. Like
Mm.
working in a jail, it was everything all the time.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that was different.
That sounds wild, boy. We're gonna have to
Yeah,
dig into that on
yeah,
another episode.
yeah. And I feel like
Oh,
and honestly, at this point, I feel like that's where God is even still calling me right now, which is like intentionally sheltering me from the world so that I can really preach to the world,
got you.
without like having that, people who tell that testimony. I used to be a pimp,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
when I was talking to these dudes who doing time for like double homicides, and they loved me just for who I was. The fact that
Yeah.
they had never seen somebody grow up not in the streets and end a black
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
I'm giving them the Bible, I'm teaching them the word, I'm praying for them, I'm talking to
Yeah.
their parents.
A young dude
Yeah,
too.
I was like wearing Jordans and a bow tie, bro. I was like
Yeah.
23, 24 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
That was mind blowing to them, and they never even
Bro, you don't wanna
imagined that
know what I was
happening.
doing. Man, was in preaching at church at 23. Don't know what I was doing, boy. Man. It's another dynamic though. We talking about leaders, right? Um, and I think you had a question before I forgot how you posed it. What was it like?
How to honor your leader?
Oh yeah, how to honor.
Yeah, how do you honor your leader when you
When,
have been?
yeah. What was it? Well, man, you had a good one.
She
How
was
was it?
staring at me. Which was the question,
How
Erica?
was it?
No, how do you honor a leader that's difficult to be under the leadership?
Yeah, that's good. How to honor a leader that's
Still honor
difficult
them.
to be under a leadership. Um, how to honor a leader that's difficult to be under that leadership.
Mhm.
Um, I would say this, and maybe you have more input because you've done it longer. But for me,
Mhm.
this is something I wrote down. I went to a leadership conference, and it says, with obeying, you can harbor anger. To submit shows love and trust.
Mm.
And I think if I'm under someone, I have to understand, what am I feeling being under this leader? Is it anger? Is it frustration? Am I reluctant to do what they want to do, or does it make me shut down? Or do I acknowledge that they're still my leader? And do I submit under them because God has put them in this position? And therefore, I'm submitting myself to God, humbling myself and trusting that God knows best. Although it's difficult to be under them, I'm going to pray for them. And so I'm going to do this because I trust Him, not them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's dope.
I think that's the humility. That's the goal of the Christian. It's starting with humility.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't be humble in this walk, and there's no way that we can be under anybody. And to lead and to be over someone, you got to come under something first. And if we're not submitted under Christ and His word and His authority, then there's no way we're going to be submitted under anybody leading in church.
Mm.
Um, I believe for me and my character, the character that I have now, I'm easy to just like not even deal with you. That's just my personality. If I sense anything, like the leaderships and the ministries that I'm over, my pastor has put me over, so it's easy for me to be under him. We have a relationship. He's like a mentor. A lot of other people, not so much. I don't really. I don't really care, a lot in that aspect. Um, I don't really. I kind of let things wash off of me. That's just my character. But I also glean from other people too bad behavior. Like I say, what not to be, what I don't want to become.
Yeah.
And I'm at a place now where it's also good to not be a leader that wants to hold on to something, thinking that it's only good and it's only thriving because you're over it.
Yeah.
I think that's dangerous as a leader too. It's better to let go. Maybe it's not meant for you to see uh the group go from 35 to 65. Maybe the next person gonna see it go to 65.
Yeah.
You brought it as far as it can go, and now it's the next person that can take it.
Hmm.
But I've also heard that it's hard for pastors to let good leaders go. I don't know what that feels like. I can't speak from through that lens, but I've heard and listened to a couple things, even when I was at this conference, that pastors do struggle with letting good leaders go because it's hard to replace them with
Hmm.
people that you trust, that trust the vision, that have the vision of the church. And that's one more thing. I'm happy I just said that vision. I don't know what vision that God has given the pastor of the house. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. They come in wanting to do things or they wanted to suggest things. And maybe the pastor will hear them out, maybe not. But you don't know what God has given them. They're the head of the house, right? Therefore, I'm not going to get offended that you don't want to take my idea or use my idea no more. Like now I got to correct myself. You just said it a moment ago. You think it's a heart thing. It's always a heart thing, right?
Hmm.
Because the heart is wicked.
Yeah.
So if we're sensitive to like take a step back, you know what? Let me not be so quickly be offended by this. What is it in me that's taking this offensive?
Yeah.
Like what's going on with me? Why am I getting tight? Am I desiring something that I shouldn't be desiring before I get pissed off and want to go and talk crap or just wash my hands and want to step down from everything?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm at when it comes to that type of a perspective. So,
Yeah. No, that's good, man.
I don't know what you can speak to.
No, I just honestly, I just think we just come from different worlds. So it's like, I do love your perspective, just
Yeah.
because it's like when you grow up in church from one, you're pretty much indoctrinated from the beginning.
Hmm.
So you don't. So imagine like being led a very specific type of way for like 20 something years,
Ooh.
and then all of a sudden you wake up and it's like, oh snap, like you said earlier, like where are you getting your idea and your concept from leadership from, and where are they getting their concept of leadership from, and how is that actually edifying to the people you are leading, and how is that leadership edifying to you,
Yeah.
and then when you actually answer those questions truthfully, it
You got to
sucks.
be honest.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
I'm like,
hard part, yo.
so I'm looking at you like, wow, I wish I only knew God for 6 years sometime, because there's a lot of like, not necessarily church. There's like, you just become jaded,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like just in the churches
That's
we grew
good,
up with,
yo. That's good.
in the different ministries, like people just, they have this authority that in the Pentecostal church, they give leaders so much authority that they do end up killing you with their words,
I
you
think
know?
thank you for pointing that out, bro. I think that's why I like looking at people that have been believers for years,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm learning so much of their bad habits.
Yeah.
Like, man, you've been walking with the Lord for 20, 25 years and you still have a bad attitude.
Yeah.
Like you still like don't know how to be in public. Like just watching like I can't tell you all the people that I just try to like watch and see
Yeah.
as I've been at my church for these years, and
Mm-hmm.
some people are gone, but
Yeah.
it's been good for me to see and learn too,
Yeah.
and just be like, man, I thank God I didn't grow up, wasn't like what you said, jaded. Like
Yeah.
I'm so happy I'm not jaded, that I have a fresh perspective, that it literally my encounter with God happened in my
Yeah.
room. It wasn't because, and nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah.
The Holy
Absolutely.
Spirit can come on you,
Mm-hmm.
at church, at the altar. Like I believe in that. I've seen it. But for why he did this to me, I'm grateful, because I feel like this perspective, the perspective I have, is necessary for today,
Yeah.
for this time, because people that have been with God 10, 20, 15, 30, 40, 50 years, they've forgotten what the basic part of being a Christian is
Yeah.
love God, love people. But what does that mean? Like really, what does that mean? Like I think we get to the point to where like, yes, we love God with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul, but we're selective when it comes to loving our neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
I l- the word doesn't say that. It just says love your neighbor as yourself. Well, I've been walking with the Lord for a good time. I know what he really means.
Yeah.
Now you just being arrogant.
Yeah.
No, I don't care how long you've been walking with the Lord. Don't make the mistake thinking that you won't get told I don't know you,
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't make the cut after serving the Lord for 50 years. That's not to non-believers. That's to believers
Mm-hmm.
that's sitting on their high horse of saying they served in ministry this long, I did this long, I've done that, and that. Don't make the mistake of waking up in eternity and realizing the book is closed.
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
You said something earlier, man, about how the church, for you, see the giftings of people and they don't nurture it the right way.
Yeah.
And they put people in the wrong spots.
Yeah.
And I just want to piggyback off that because I believe that just because you're gifted doesn't mean you're gifted to lead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yep.
that's a mistake that I see a lot,
Yeah.
you know. And you can look at that. We were talking about. It's funny we was talking about our children today. They have all different personalities. How I talk to Memphis, I can't do that with Miles,
Yeah.
and I'm 1,000%. I'm not gonna be able to do that with Mateo. I think that's the same way when it comes to ministry.
Absolutely.
Like I can be gifted, but I'm just not a leader. Can you be honest with yourself? I resisted so much when Pastor Ken was asking me to do stuff because I did not want to. I was good with just coming to church. Like in my heart, like even to this day, if they ask me to step down, like I'm like, thank you. Like I
Yeah.
don't want that. I just want to be a guy that I can, you know, come to people on my own, pour into people intimately. I don't want the title. I don't want that, and I try not to wear
Yeah.
that. But it's the responsibility that I have, and therefore I'm going to be responsible with it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be responsible for the people. But it's a lot of people that can't wait for the title, and they get frustrated
Yeah.
and get pissed off. And I knew some people like that before. So
Yeah. And another thing to go back to the nurturing thing is like
mm-hmm.
when you rely so much on your own discernment or your Holy Spirit, sometimes that can supersede you actually building relationships. So now you're not really building relationships to understand who this person really is. You just, oh, I have a feeling he's like this. And maybe he is like
Oh,
this,
that's
but does
good.
that mean promote him today? Without
That's
having a
good.
relationship, it's like,
That's good.
okay, I see the seed inside of you. And now if I want you to be a leader, we're going to have to build a relationship. And I'm going to have to take out all the things that are going to hinder you from being a successful leader,
Yeah.
But we rely so much on the discernment that certain people who you need to pull it out of,
Yeah.
they get thrown away. And the people that you like the most or who you're cool with
Mm-hmm.
or you've had just a brief conversation with, oh, you're going to promote them because you see them on the surface level. But you don't know that they're just political. They know how to have a great conversation, act like everything's good, and you're buying into that.
Yeah.
So it's like with your
Yeah.
kids, you have to know every single one of your kids.
Yeah.
Whoever you're leading, you have to know who these people are.
Yeah.
You can't just only rely on your discernment.
Nah, you can't. And it's not the discernment's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, like the second you start leaning on your own understanding, that's where your feelings get in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you feel like this person might be a good
Yeah.
leader. You feel like this person has been called. You feel like this person deserves to be in this, and that's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It don't matter what you feel.
Yeah.
It's making the hard choice to realizing that, man, I don't want to promote this person because I gotta spend time with them to develop them. But they actually have the leadership quality. They have the patience.
Yeah.
They have the perspective. But this person already got the gift, so I'm gonna just give it to them.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
Like think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy to think about
Mm-hmm.
because now the people that should be nurturing us up, they're lazy.
Yeah.
They're just lazy because they don't want to spend the time it's going to take to
Yeah.
walk this person through the steps. It's going to get them to the purpose and call that God has positioned them to be in.
And also, you enabled that person who you promoted to know that their talents are good enough. Like
Mm,
you're talented and gifted enough to where you got it. So now they're entitled in their leadership. And now the person you're
that's
supposed to be
good.
nurturing, they're also supposed to be nurturing, but they're condemning them because they're not where they're at, you know?
That's good, yo. That is real good. It's crazy to
Yeah.
think about. I'm like seeing it in my head.
hmm
Like, man, if that ever happens around me, like I'm gonna be like, yo, this is wild.
Yeah.
Y'all being lazy, bro.
Oh, it's tough,
Um,
man. It's tough. Oh.
that's crazy. It's messed up though, man, because you would think that as believers we would have this down by now.
hmm
It wouldn't be this obvious for somebody like me. Like you should not be doing this,
Yeah.
yo. Like and I think that comes from because I'm not what you would say a seasoned Christian in years,
hmm
whereas I feel like I'm definitely seasoned when it comes to perspective. Um, and I'm so happy because of the personalities I dealt with in my life when I was in the world. Just how I was living. Just the
Yeah.
different interactions and stuff I did. So when I'm in church now, I see familiar spirits.
Yeah.
I see it. I'm like, oh, I know you.
Yeah.
I remember you.
That's why I can't get into every YouTuber and every
Hmm.
personality that's faith based because I'm like I see you can see it
Yeah, yeah. You see
like
it.
I know what you probably was doing before you met God,
You
you
know,
know?
the crazy part is that
Yeah.
we can't be surprised, right?
Yeah.
As believers, we can't be because the word says that the enemy comes as an angel of light.
hmm
So we can't be surprised. Like he knows the language, they know how to talk it.
Yeah.
Especially like and it goes both ways with guys and girls. You got the guys that in their heart they want to be Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
When they do stuff,
Yeah.
and then you got girls that say nice things, but they got to be sensual when they do it.
hmm
And then you know what I'm saying. So it goes both ways,
Yeah.
and it's like, man, like you're not really for the kingdom. You're really for you.
Yeah.
Like you really doing this like for yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much promotion. It's too much.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's too much production. It's
hmm
like, yo,
Yeah.
just deliver the word, man. Just deliver like a sound perspective on the word, or your testimony, and just let that be it.
hmm
That's gonna bless somebody that's on
Yeah.
the fence more than somebody that's ready to just to put somebody on or to make you look good, right?
Yeah.
And man, I don't want to ever be that. And I think, but it's good though, man. Like you said, it's good to like watch people. Will you let one go?
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's good to watch.
It smells like
You
cinnamon.
got it right got by the window. Hey man, it happens. It's better to let it out than in. Hey man, it's it's a safe space. Nah, man, this has been good though, bro. This has been good, man. I don't know. I think it's good. I think if I was to encourage anybody, um, be it men leading their families, it definitely has to be a team thing when it comes to you and your spouse. Um, Communication is key because you might not even know how you're trying to lead your family because of the leadership that you've seen in your life. So I think it's important for you to come together with your wife and sit down and understand what she needs and what you need, and you guys come together and create what you both want out of your family dynamic. When it comes to leading in church, I can't really speak to a lot of areas, but I think it would be more so understanding what obeying is and submitting. To obey, you can still harbor anger. You can do something and still be frustrated and hate it. But to submit, you have to love this person. You have to trust their walk and what they're doing, and it's easy. It doesn't feel like any work. And I think understanding your heart, navigating those feelings, making sure you're flushing out what's the enemy and what's of God, and really walking in that. So yeah.
When it comes to leadership, I feel like we can't become so focused on trying to grow the church or grow the ministry
Mm,
that we forget to cultivate what's in the people who are already following us so that they can grow in their spiritual life.
that's
Like
good.
when you start trying to just grow whatever it is, you start to like dismiss and ignore, and you can't cultivate because you're so focused on what's not there,
Mm,
you know? But when you're focused on what's not there, it's going to grow anyways, because when they're affected by it, it's going to be word of mouth.
that's
So it's just
good. That's good,
cultivating
Luke.
what you have.
Yeah, that's good. Development, player development.
Exactly.
Like really being player development. But guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this conversation, man. And leave us a comment in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. And we will see you guys on the next episode. It is the Even If Podcast.
Even if I go through the fire, I'm right there beside you. Even if I'm facing Goliath, you made me a fighter. Even if you throw me the lion.